unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted Show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Raw and Unscripted Show with yours truly, Christopher Rausch, the No Excuses Coach. And you are at your place where I help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Thank you for joining us, whether you're here on the live video cast, which we do every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or of course, you're checking us out on the audio podcast in one of any 33 countries I think we're in right now. So thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for tuning in. We just recently celebrated our 6th year doing this podcast and our 300th episode. So we're super proud of that. Always delivering you the goods on how you can shift your perspective and change your results, get rid of your excuses, and live a kick-ass, unstoppable life. We're happy to be here with you tonight. We have an amazing guest, which I'll be introducing here in just a moment. But tonight I want to talk to you about something that's super important. Humanity. I want to talk about the world and what's going on in the world today. Each of us, I believe, has a responsibility and a duty wherever we go. Right? Wherever we go and whatever we do, we have an opportunity to make that place just a little bit better. You heard it maybe as a kid, pick up a little piece of trash wherever you go and we can make this world a prettier place. I firmly believe this in my heart of hearts, no matter whether you're black, white, straight, gay, short, fat, Republican, Democrat, transgender, straight, gay, whatever label you want to put on it. I believe all of us bring unique gifts to this world, and therefore we have a responsibility to share those gifts. And in order to do so, we also have to have a little bit of compassion, a little bit of empathy. And for me, one of the key factors in my life and my success is the fact that I learned pretty early on that if you seek first to understand, then to be understood, it's pretty incredible what you can learn when you open these things up and you shut this thing up. And for those of you guys that are listening on the podcast, I'm talking about we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Let's do a little less talking. Let's do a little bit more listening. And I'm not saying to do that in order to not have your voice heard, because some people get that confused. They're like, well, Chris, what about my opinions? What about my thoughts? Of course. So here's how it kind of goes down. You listen to somebody and you sit there and say, hey, Chris, here's what I understand you saying. Although I can see where your perspective comes from, or help me understand where your perspective comes from, maybe if you don't. And now I'd like to invite you an alternative way of looking at whatever it is that we are having a discussion about, whether it's a work situation, a personal situation, this conversation with your mechanic, right? I've helped people have better conversations with their vendors by just shutting up, because most of the time as customers, we want to be heard. I'm the customer and I'm right. Well, what if we just understood where the vendor was coming from? Hey, help me understand why that part's on back order. Oh, wow, there's a supply chain issue. Oh, wow, I forgot. I didn't know that the docks were backed up. Oh, hey, now I have a little compassion and empathy. Let's do a little bit more of that. Let's do it in our own homes. Right? So oftentimes we want to be heard. We're the rule setter. I'm the man of the house, whatever it might be. Let's shut up and listen. Because when you do that, it's pretty incredible what you can learn about someone else. And, not only just listen, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Or help me understand how you came to that position on that argument, whatever it might be. And when you seek first to understand and to be understood, it's pretty incredible how your relationships improve. And when your relationships improve, whether they're personal or professional, your results improve and your disposition improves. And then you have a little bit healthier aspect on the world, because so many people come to me right now and they're saying, Chris, the world's on fire and the world's burning and the world's a terrible place and it's going to hell in a handbasket. And my immediate response to that is like, that's very interesting. You must be watching the news. You must be following politics. You must be looking at social media, because from my perspective, the world's still a pretty kick-ass place. I go out there every single day. I'm out amongst people, coaching clients, business clients, the general public, and everywhere I go, people seem to be pretty cool. Hey, how you doing? How's your day going? What's going on? What's new and exciting? People stop and tell you about that. People actually like to talk and have somebody listen to them. And so for me, the world's a pretty cool place. Does it have its challenges? Does it have its opportunities? 100%. 100%. I'm not going to sit there and lie and say there's all rainbows and sunshine going on. There's some challenging things that are going on. But again, just imagine if every single one of us, and there's, quite a few of you that listen to this, if every single one of us made it an intention every single day to do one thing to make another person's day brighter or better, let somebody in traffic. I've been telling that to a lot of people. Somebody's coming out the driveway, just slow down for a second. Let somebody pull out. well, you're not going to get there any faster, but so many people are in a hurry. And I made a joke to some asshole the other day, and I said, you're in a hurry to get to somewhere you probably don't like, right? And he says, yeah. And I said, what if you just took a moment and while you let that person in, you said, man, I'm pretty grateful for the car I'm driving. Hey, I'm pretty grateful for the job that I have that I don't particularly care for, that I'm not doing anything to change. So let's all have that opportunity and that perspective to make the world just a little bit brighter. And that starts with us. That really does start with us. What's up, Princeton Clark? Hey, man, I appreciate you being here. It's been a minute since we talked. So I know that Princeton would agree with this as well. Let's go out in our world and let's make that world a better place. And first and foremost, we got to start with ourselves, because the negative self-talk, the allowance of the multiple times we beat ourselves up for things that have happened in our past is ridiculous. You did something once, but yet you punish yourself over and over again. And tonight's conversation, we're going to be talking about negative self-talk. We're going to be talking about what you can do to change your disposition, change your perspective, change your attitude about maybe some mistakes or some failures that you had in your life, because chances are those are what is really propelling you next to your next version of yourself. So without any further ado, I'm going to shut up and not talk so much. I'm going to invite my guest on here. I had an opportunity to meet him over a Zoom call not too long ago. We have something in common, which you're going to see as soon as he comes on the Zoom call, but he's a very, very intelligent man. He's a very astute business person, but more importantly, he's done some things in his life that are going to help you navigate your situation a little bit clearer and have more control in your life. So please help me welcome to the Raw Unscripted Show, Mr. Eric Jackson. What's going on, Mr. Jackson?
I am doing well, and your intro blew me away.
Well, thank you. I'm a little hyped up right now, so I'm trying to calm myself down as I try to ramp everybody up. So thank you very much for that, and I appreciate that. What did you like most about that?
We run around in an all-fired hurry and think about ourselves way too much.
Yeah.
And every time, like when we first connected, the first thing that I saw was the guitars in the background.
Yep. I just tell my wife that. She goes, "Oh, you guys are going to get along great."
Yeah. Well, and we talked about 10 minutes about music. And I immediately, obviously, you like music. And so I will do exactly what you described in the intro, is let's talk about you first. I want to know what you're interested in. I want to know what drives you. I want to know what makes you happy. People love to talk about themselves. And so I just make it a habit of when I first meet somebody, I want to get them talking and figure out what they're all about. And it always changes the conversation.
It does. You know, when you take an interest in somebody, it's pretty incredible what it is that you can find out about somebody. I was wearing this shirt today. Normally I just change into a plain black or a plain white t-shirt just for the consistency of the show. But today I was wearing this shirt, which you'll probably appreciate. So it's music related. It's guitars. It's one of my favorite shirts. I always get a lot of compliments on it, but yeah, I mean, what am I about? I'm about exactly what I was just talking about, really. I mean, it's just, I am who I am, and I'm all about making this world a better place for who I am and what I do. I set that intention every single day when I wake up in the morning, is like, what can I do by using my voice and using my actions to bring about the world in just a little bit brighter place? I mean, I've got an 8-year-old son who I set the example for, and it's been my intention ever since really the time I stopped being a homeless 7th grade dropout and, you know, doing drugs and all sorts of bad things, and started realizing that I have an opportunity in this world to better myself and to go through some challenges and go through some growth in order to become the man I am today. And it wasn't really until I went to a funeral back in 2008 and I realized that if I asked myself the question, I said, if I died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And it really caused me to take a step back. And I figured 10 or 15 people would show up. They would bring Miller Genuine Draft and bottles of Jack Daniels and Motley Crue and Bon Jovi records. And they would talk about all the stupid shit Chris did. Oh my God, remember that time he got drunk in this time? Remember that time he passed out and we stacked food on his head? Remember that time he drove in the desert without his headlights on? Remember that time? Oh yeah, he was a homeless 7th grade dropout who wrote a book and changed the world. And that's when I really went home and I went, fuck, I don't want to be remembered that way. And so I wrote my eulogy, and at the crux of my eulogy, when I read it back to myself, I started crying, and I started realizing that by using my words and my actions and not being a victim to the situations that I was in, and by pushing myself and really truly being unstoppable, that I now have created a legacy that if I do pass tomorrow, God forbid, I know I've changed thousands upon thousands of lives. So that intertwined with music and my family, that's who I'm about.
Yeah, that's what drives me every day. When we first connected, we talked a little bit about my recent history. It's not as it mirrors yours in some ways. It's probably a little less dramatic in some ways, but no less impactful for me, because from the time I was about 15 years old, drinking alcohol was my thing, and I have those stories. Eric threw up here, he did this, and I woke up one day and just realized, you know what, this is not doing me any favors.
I remember that. That's why I titled the show what I did.
Yeah, it was, do I really want to be this for the rest of my life? And called a friend of mine who I knew had gotten sober, and told him, hey man, let's go for a walk. I want to talk to you about something, because I knew he had gotten sober. And the question that people ask me today is, hey, how did you do it? Because when you're in the grip of whatever addiction or proclivity that you have, you just really can't see life without it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And, that day, after he told me a very personal story, I decided that, you know what, I just don't need this in my life anymore. Just quit alcohol cold turkey. And yeah, that was August 27th of 23. So it's been almost two years and some change.
Wow. Bravo.
Yeah, thank you. It's and what's funny is that I think what caused me to really make the decision was that old saying that's really true. The pain of continuing on as I was greater than the pain of change.
Right.
And I just said, I'm just going to do this. And I knew from that moment that I was never going to drink again. It's like,
that's a huge statement. That's a huge commitment.
Yeah. And I never saw myself being that person.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I still have my bourbon collection down here in the basement, and I walk past it every day. It's like, fuck you, as I walk by, I have to pass it on the way to the bathroom here in the basement where my office is. And never really been an issue. And then, so I started telling my story publicly. Of course, my wife is like, what are you doing? This is not normal. So, well, I want to tell my story because I know there are a lot of other people like me who need to hear this, that it's something that you don't have to do, that there is life without this substance that really isn't good for you.
No, it's terrible.
It's awful. I mean, if you've ever, Andrew Huberman, I've watched one of his videos about the effects of alcohol. It's like, wow. What I thought that they called it poison as a joke, but it's really actually poison. And so
acetylene formaldehyde, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah. You're basically pickling your body, and it does kill brain cells. I thought that was a joke too, but no, it really does. I'm fortunate I kept a few. So that inspired me. The fact that I had done it, and I was so committed to being that guy, the life of the party, that wanted to talk to other people about it. And then people began to seek me out. I did a talk about it in front of some peers in an entrepreneurs organization here in Nashville, and had people come out of the woodwork. And so I've mentored a few people individually, people that I've never told anybody else that I'm talking to these people about it, and had people hang it up. And it's a beautiful thing.
Doesn't it feel great when you know that the challenges and the things that used to kind of hold you back, once you address them and become aware of them, and then you start sharing them, the impact that you can make on other people?
100%. So when I did it, I had been going to this program It's called the Entrepreneurial Masters Program. It's a function of the Entrepreneurs Organization, worldwide membership organization for entrepreneurs. And it's at MIT, about 68 people from around the world. And I come back year 2. I'd quit like 5 months after or before the next time we got together, and told everybody, hey, I've quit drinking, and told the whole story. And I had a couple of people ask me about it, and hey, I've kind of struggled with the same thing. And they're the sort of people that will, and many people think of entrepreneurs, business people as sort of heartless jerks. I mean, there are some out there, right? But nah. But the folks that I hang out with in EO are really great folks in a number of different ways, and they were happy to see the change that I'd made. Now, at the same time, while I was there, telling my buddy Stu, hey, I'm sober now, but I'm still fat, and
and I love your honesty.
Yeah. And, just kind of joking around with him. And he said, okay, I'll fix your shit. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to work out every day. You're going to buy some weights, or you can go to the gym. I don't care how you do it, but you're going to work out every day, and you're going to stop eating like an asshole. And you're going to tell me and these are his exact words. If you don't, I'm flying to Nashville, and I'm going to put my foot in your ass. And
I like this guy. We got to meet Stu.
Oh, he's a piece of work. He was a college athlete. He's something else. I will get to see him here in a couple of weeks, but and I thought about it. I'm telling him what the next problem is. And if I don't do something about it, then I'm a fraud. I'm acknowledging I've got a problem and that I want to get better. And I know what the answer is. And it ain't Ozempic. You can lose weight by, sticking yourself once a week. But I thought, you know what? Yeah, he's right. Eat well and work out. And once I got home, that's what I started doing about 1.5 years ago. And I have exercised. My streak right now is at about 85 days. I've missed a day every now and then. But for the most part, I work out 7 days a week. Some are, recovery. So there's some lighter workouts in there.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's like an obsession for me. And I also knew that there were certain things that I had to do in order to keep that up.
I was just going to ask you that. Like, what had to shift for you? Because I can hear so many people sitting at home right now, listening to this conversation going, wow, it must be nice to be you guys, right? I told you I quit drinking for an entire year. And like we had talked about before, I mean, we're past masters at that. And so for me to do that, I know what it took, but in some ways, I'm kind of weird like that. Like if I just make a decision, I just decide to do it. But for people that are listening who perhaps maybe have had that negative self-talk going on in their lives, they feel like they're a failure. They feel like I've tried to quit drinking before, Chris, and I just couldn't do it. Or I tried to lose weight and I just couldn't do it. Or I tried to quit smoking and I just couldn't do it. What are some things that you might suggest to people who are listening for them to kind of, take a couple of steps into building that self-confidence and to get some results for themselves?
I think the best way is to pick up some new habits. So for example, with alcohol, I was out a lot, for Nashville Predators, hockey games, social events. There was always an opportunity to drink, and I always took advantage of that. And I thought, well, what are people going to think if I'm not drinking, if I'm not being that guy that I was? And so I started drinking club soda with lime, and it, looked like I was having something to drink. And I actually like club soda, LaCroix, whatever, something with a little bubbles in it.
Right. And
so I just started doing that. And nobody said a word. Nobody asked me, what are you drinking? Hey, you want a beer? You want this? You want that? Nobody. And I began to realize, well, it was all me. I was telling myself this story that simply was not true. Nobody cared. And so by changing that one little habit, I picked up another one that was healthy and continued on with it. And I mean, it's rare that anybody ever says, hey, you want me to buy you a drink? You want me to buy you a beer? I'm like, yeah, I don't drink, but I'll have a club soda. Okay, great. There's never any peer pressure. And if you get that, then maybe you're hanging out with the wrong folks.
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't want you to change and better yourself? If they don't agree with it, they probably want to keep you on the same level as them with the misery and all the things that are associated with it.
Misery loves company. That's why it's a very known, well-stated fact. I tell people that you're like the 5 people you're around the most. You know, when I look back on my life, when I was doing average or poor or whatever it might be, look around the 5 people, I'm like, yeah, that mediocrity kind of thing, that, oh yeah, that complacency. Oh, these are my homies, or this is whatever. But when I wish those people well, and I've decided to find the next version of myself, and when I force myself to be around more successful people, join masterminds, you know, get my own coach, it's pretty incredible what I found I was capable of. And, you know, those people who I thought were my friends started bad mouthing me like, oh, Chris thinks he's too good and all he's doing this. And it's like, okay, great. You know, you can go ahead and live your life. I'm not going to, no harm, no foul. If it works for you, great. But I'm in the business of trying to better myself each and every day so that when I pass away, I could think like, man, I came here, I kicked some ass and, you know, took some names. So when you think about this, what were some of the things that maybe you had to confront or had to become more aware of as a result of not drinking? Because I know for me, I found out that, you know, you can't run away from your problems and you can't run away from the anxiety. I found out that I would socially drink because I had anxiety. I would experience anxiety, I should say. So for me, there was a couple of awareness issues, and I had to find different coping mechanisms for myself to be able to handle that. So I developed, I got into breath work and learning how to do deep breathing and calming exercises. I, you know, started the show and I was like all high and my heart was racing. But as we've been talking, I brought my heart rate down because I've been aware of it. What are some things that maybe you didn't realize that maybe you were hiding through alcohol that allowed you the opportunity to have that clarity?
Well,
and I had no idea we were going to really talk about this in depth, but I love it because I know it's going to help people. And we're talking about taking control of our life, and what better way of doing that than looking at our addictions.
Well, a couple of things. So I quit drinking in part because my dad was 83, 84 years old back then at that time. And he rarely ever drank and hadn't for decades, and lived to be 86. And
that's impressive.
Yeah. And I don't think I could have kicked his ass until he was like 70 years old. I mean, he was country strong in the best sense of the word. And I thought, you know, I looked at myself, what sort of shape that I was in at the time, and thought to myself, the future does not look good for me. Mm. You know, I've got a wife, I've got a daughter, I've got 2 businesses. This isn't going to be a good. I wanted to live for a long time, but I wanted to live well. Mm-hmm. And so that was in the back of my head as well. And my daughter, about a few months after I quit drinking, my daughter got married. And I thought, you know, I'd kind of like to see my grandkids. This is one more thing that I want to have in my life, and be able to pick them up, go do things with them. Like I don't want to be decrepit because I did that to myself. There's no reason to do that.
I agree with you 1,100%.
Yeah. It's just, you know, we think that these things that we do are just not going to have much of an impact because it's incremental. You know, you're doing it over the years, and so you wake up the next day, maybe you feel like crap, and but that it has an incremental effect. And you know, trips to the doctor were like, yeah, you're doing okay, but you know, your blood sugar's a little high, and here's this pill, and so I was just kind of like the frog in the water. I mean, yep. Temperature kept going up, and I began to realize that this is not going in the direction that I want to go in. And so all of those things combined really made me think, this is the time. It's like at the time I was, you know, 55 years old. I need to I need to get my act together because it's not going to get any easier after this. And started with drinking, began working out every day. And now, like in order to make sure that I'm able to get those workouts in, I wake up every day at 4:47 a.m. I chose 47 because of my company's name, which 47 was my dad's favorite number. He used to use that as a little trick on us when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
That was his
answer. We're going to get there. 47, right? Something 47. Like that.
Yeah, yep. 47.
I remember that story.
Yep. And so I thought to myself, well, how, I'm going to have to get up early because once you get going in your day, the day is no longer yours. You're going to have all the distractions coming out of the woodwork, people needing your support, needing your help. You got to do this, you got to do that. You lose control over your day. And I know this is cliche. There's books written about the morning routine. I've read them.
5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma changed me.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. If I'm going to work out every day and not have Stu show up at my doorstep, I've got to work out in the morning. And then I began to think, okay, well, how am I going to do this in a way that I can do it efficiently and make sure that I'm getting all the things in that I want to do? I started adding things to the list that I wanted to do in the morning. So first thing, I get up, I wear the same thing every day, which freaked some people out. I wear a different t-shirt every day because I don't want to, I don't want to stink. But I wear the same pair of shorts and get a little bit of water. Been taking creatine recently. Get up, go downstairs, do the workout, knock it out. It's between 35 and 45 minutes. I use an app called Ladder. It tells me exactly what to do. I don't have to think. I don't need any uncertainty in my morning. I don't have, the brain fog still going at that time. I don't want to have to think. Just tell me what to do. I'll lift the weights. I'll make it happen. Once the workout's done, go sit outside, get a little bit of nature. Even if it's 10 degrees outside, I put a hoodie on, go sit outdoors with some coffee, hang out for 10, 15 minutes, which, there's science behind that too. It's good for you. We spend way too much time indoors. Yep.
Get your circadian rhythm in check.
Exactly. Get a little sunlight, you want the rays from the sun to hit your eyes. Of course, this time of year, there's not a whole heck of a lot of sun up.
Well, in Southern California, there is.
Tennessee, not so much. So after that, come back into my office, read 3 chapters of the Bible. I read the Daily Stoic, which has really made a big impact on me as well, because my family is we can have a temper and get a little irritated, and it's really helped me to understand that if you just calm down and understand that there's so much out there that's beyond your control. And you talked about politics. What good is it going to do me to get upset about some decisions that are maybe being made? A lot of it, as my old business partner used to say, it's professional wrestling. They all pretend like they hate each other, and then they go slap each other on the back and do insider trading and other things. Right. It's a big act. I can't control it. I'm going to go and do the best that I can and live my life. Then I journal. I get all the crap out of my head, and I always thought that was a bunch of bunk. But just writing it down and acknowledging how I'm feeling gets it out, and I don't have to take that out on somebody else later in the day. Most of it's really good stuff. Today it was not, but I got that out and I moved on. And then also play the drums. And then I go into the other room where my drum set is. I've got a little practice pad because I don't want to wake my wife up. And I do rudiments for 30 minutes. It's almost like meditation because I'm practicing double stroke rolls and I've got all these exercises that my drum teacher has turned me on to. And I thought,
you sat in with a band, didn't you? You sat in with a band on drums. Is that you?
Yeah.
Yep, I remember that.
It's a buddy of mine that is in a networking group with me. we met him for the first time, started talking about how much we loved music, and started talking about guitars and drums. And I said, man, you should come over to the house and let's play a little bit. He comes over, got really nice equipment. It was really obvious pretty quickly that he knew what he was doing. So I sat down at the drums and we started playing. It's like, man, this dude he can play. And so just connected, it's this music is this.
You lock in.
You lock in. It's this unspoken thing. You can see it in the other person's eyes and just feel what is coming. And so we got done. He said, man, I've got this little group called the Soapy Mohawks. He said, we play shotgun wedding receptions, backyard parties. We just we play gigs every now and then. And I said, well, maybe I'm interested. Tell me about the band. He said, well, it's me. I play guitar. We got another guitarist who plays acoustic guitar, the lead singer, and a bass player. And there's 3 rules for the band. Number 1, it's just funny to say, we never rehearse. I'm like,
whoa,
okay. Tell me how that works. He said, you just got to trust the process. We just all show up, and the lead singer, Mark, starts to sing a song. And he said, dude, you're good. You'll figure it out. You'll know the song, or you'll have heard it before, and you just start playing. And we don't have set lists. And that, at this point, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And we don't take requests. So no rehearsal, no set lists, no requests. He called me a few weeks later, said, hey man, we've got a gig. And so, can you make it? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I show up, a little sweaty, thinking, how is this really going to go? Because I'd never met these other 2 guys before. We set up.
Wow. Holy shit. You just jumped in the deep end.
Yeah. Well, I've been preparing for this my entire life.
Right.
Because music is a lot to me. It's like I'm almost always have music playing, and I'm that guy who can hear the first 5 seconds of a song and tell you who it is.
My wife calls me a walking jukebox.
Yeah. It's just something that, when you get tens of thousands of hours of listening to things, you begin to pick up on patterns. So I didn't realize it, but I had it inside of me to be able to sit down, and he started playing a song. I'm like, okay, I think I know what this is. And I've got that ability that I can hear something and I know what sounds good with it, and I can make it work. So we play the first set, we take a break. Somebody comes over and says, hey man, you guys are great. How long have you been playing together? I said, about an hour. He thought I was messing with him. I'm like, no, I've never met these other 2 guys before. I just met him on the way in here. And this is Nashville. We've got talent everywhere, and made it work. So we've played a number of gigs. I think we got a couple more coming up. We're going to Augusta, Georgia. I mean, most of them are in Nashville, but going to Augusta in late April, I believe. I have no idea what we're going to play. Probably, I mean, there's some songs that have popped up each time that we've played. So I just, again, trust the process, let go, and just understand that I know things. I'm not going to say I'm faking it, but I can hear what the song needs, and I play, and it just works. It's the wildest.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think when people are listening to this, they're like, okay, we went from talking about giving up alcohol and starting a workout program to going into music, but I think it all ties. I mean, I know it all ties in together. When I think about that, I know that people are like going, well, that's nice. These guys have this confidence. So when you're trying to prepare for something that's uncomfortable, or you're thinking about, a business situation you have going on, or a personal situation you have going on, and you're not sure of what the potential outcome might be, and if you're thinking about in terms of our listeners, how do you approach something, or what would you suggest to people as you approach it to try to develop maybe an insight, or I'm trying to think of proactively fill your confidence, perhaps not fake it till you make it. I tell people act as if. So like when they're going into a situation, I was just talking with a guy last night, former coaching client. He says, "Hey, can I bend you here for a minute?" And I said, "Yeah." And he actually just got a leadership position. And he says, what's your number one piece of advice? And I said, act as if you already know how to be a leader. I said, think about it in terms of not going in there and being a wrecking ball for everything. Because actually in a previous life, he reported to me, and then he became a coaching client. Now he's just my friend. But I said, go in there and act as if you've already been a leader. Act as if like, who is somebody in your life? And he told me I was his best leader. I said, act as if you were me. What would Chris do? What would Chris suggest right now? So what is some advice for people that are listening right now, thinking that, you and I have it together? We've been through hell and back. I'm sure. I know that, to help them get that confidence to be able to do some of these scarier things in life.
So my, my operations person who runs my primary business, Element 47, she told me about a t-shirt or a sweatshirt that she bought recently. And she's a very positive person, and she's really great at this. And the sweatshirt says, "What's the best thing that can happen?"
Oh,
and I thought, holy shit, that's my kind of vibe right there. That I'm not going to go into a situation thinking I'm gonna mess this up. I don't know what I'm doing. I realize that I've gotten to the point that I am in the position that I'm in, because I've done some good things. I'm not perfect. I still make mistakes. I don't care how good you are. You're going to make mistakes.
Learning opportunities.
Yeah. It's you either win or you learn.
Yes.
You may see it as a loss in the moment, but you're going to make a mistake, and you're going to learn from it, and you're going to be better the next time. And so I just go into situations thinking, what's the best thing that can happen? I let go, and I put myself there in the moment. And it's something I learned from my dad that I didn't really realize that he had until later in life, that when he was sitting with me, I was the sole focus. And so back when I was drinking, it gave me anxiety. And I realized that wasn't just while I was drinking, it was, a big part of my life. And so I've been able to get rid of that and really focus on whatever it is that's in front of me in the moment and give my full attention to it. And it makes me so much better at everything that I try. And the same thing has happened. Like I've been playing the drums for a long time. I understand music, but it wasn't really until I went back to the basics and said, I'm going to put some effort into this, and told my drum teacher, like, hey, I can't play as much as I would like to on the drum kit, my wife at home. I want to go back to the practice pad. So just went back to focusing on those basics. And it really gives me even more confidence to do whatever I set my mind to do. So, and then a friend of mine named Chris Kelso, who's also he's a speaker and wrote a book about the imposter syndrome. Nobody's an expert coming out, starting something new.
No.
But just admitting to other people that, hey, I don't know everything. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn as you go along, and in many cases, that will help you gain the confidence of the people around you. Go, hey, I know some things about this. I'm gonna bring my best game here, and let's just see. And if there are things that I need to learn along the way, I'm going to tell you I don't know. Like, there have been times where I've been playing with the Soapy Mohawks. I look over at Jonathan, I'm like, I don't know what this is. And he'll go, it's a train beat. It's a halftime shuffle. It's, oh, okay. I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't hear it. Nobody noticed. It was all fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it all turned out okay. And I learned something new. So, just realize that not everybody out in front of you doing tough things knows exactly what they're doing. They've been through the same thing. And what's the best thing that can happen?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn something.
I love that. It's so true. I mean, when you think about the perspective that we have on things, it's like if I tell people about the negative self-talk, I ask them to eliminate a couple of words from their vocabulary. I just had a new coaching client start, and I said always and never, and try. I said, let's get rid of always and never and try, because half the time when we say, I always screw up, or I'm never going to get the right job, or I'm never going to get the right customer, or I'm never going to get it right, or I always make a mistake, all those different things just set us up for that opportunity for failure. And so our reticular activation system in our brain, the RAS system, the thing that says, if you go look at a blue Dodge Charger, then all of a sudden you're looking around, you go like, man, a blue Dodge Charger, a blue Dodge Charger. Why am I seeing blue Dodge Chargers? Because your reticular activation system is focused on that's what you're going to see. Same thing if you're looking at the opportunities, like I'm going to go into this scary situation and I'm going to look for an opportunity to excel. I'm going to look for an opportunity to shift my mindset to say, you know what? What's the best thing that can happen? And I love that you talk about that, because I'm always talking about what is the best that we can do. But when we eliminate some of that negative self-talk and we eliminate that try, I'm going to try to go be a speaker. I was just coaching somebody recently about becoming a professional speaker, and they asked me the question. They said, how did you become a speaker? And I said, I just started talking. And I said, you know what? I'd go on stage and I'd have 500,000 things that I was going to say, and I didn't say those things. And then I thought, oh my God, I failed. But when I walked off stage, people were like, oh my God, you're a natural. I really love when you said this, and I love when you said that, because I just trusted. And I learned this from a dear friend of mine. He's a famous actor. His name's Glenn Morshower. He just said, just trust in yourself. If you speak from the heart, then you can't go wrong. And so there's no trying to go on stage. There's no trying to get that client. There's just a fact of what we've been talking about tonight, Eric, is we make a commitment. We just make a commitment to ourselves, and we develop that self-discipline. And I teach people that, like when I did, about 75 hard, right? I'm sure you do. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I've done 75 hard 4 times. And for those of you guys who don't know it, it's 75 days of 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes each. One of them has to be outside, a gallon of water, healthy eating, no alcohol, 10 pages of a personal development book, and a daily progress picture. There's 5 things that you have to do for 75 days. I heard about it from a guy named Andy Frisella, who kind of authored it and created it. The first time I heard about it, I'm like, that's ridiculous. I would never do something like that. And because I said that out loud, it was bugging me. And so I walked downstairs and I told my wife, I said, hey, I've heard about this thing called 75 hard. I don't want to do it. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's too much. But because I don't want to do it, I feel like I need to do it. And I said, do you want to do it? And she's like, fuck no, you go do that shit. And so that very next day, I started 75 hard. And I just sat there and I said, I'm going to make the commitment. I'm going to make the discipline to do it. And it was about day 27 that I thought I had already done my second workout. And I went to bed. It was about 11 o'clock at night. I was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And as I was recapping my day, I just took my daily progress picture, and I realized that I didn't do my second workout. I had done my second workout the previous day at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I thought I'd already done them both, but that day I hadn't done it. So I got my times mixed up because I was getting about 3-4 hours sleep. And so in that realization, day 27, I'll never forget it. I was like, oh, I didn't do my second workout. And then my first reaction was, well, Chris, you've been busting your ass. You've been working out. You've done, it's nope. You made a promise. You made a commitment. I created this whole group called the 75 Unstoppables, the 75 Hard Unstoppables. I got back up, got dressed, went downstairs. My wife says, what are you doing? You're going to bed. I said, no, I didn't do my second workout. And so I went for a 45-minute walk in the dead of night. I enjoyed the shit out of it. I didn't listen to any music. And as I was walking, I was like, I kept my promise to myself. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we all need to do, is when you say something and you put something out into the atmosphere, keep your promise to yourself. And that discipline, like you said, getting up at 4:47 every single day. When you make that discipline, I'm not going to try to get up at 5 o'clock. I'm just going to get up at 5 o'clock. I'm going to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 it, as Mel Robbins says. If the people listening, if you haven't heard of Mel Robbins, she does this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You don't give yourself any time to talk yourself out of it. Like an extra 15 minutes of sleep isn't going to do you any good. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You get up, you put your shoes on, you go to the gym. I tell people, go to the gym. If you go to the gym for 10 minutes and go home and want to go back to sleep, that is totally fine. You could totally do it. If you just drive in the gym parking lot, that's all I'm asking you to do. And people are like, that's crazy, Chris. Never had anybody not go to the gym and say, you know what? I was going to tell myself, a 20-minute workout. I worked out for 45 minutes. So the thing you and I are talking about tonight is making that commitment to ourselves and putting ourselves first, right? And so oftentimes we don't do that. For people who are listening right now, Eric, when we think about that discipline, what are some ways that we can find? I tell people, like, when you have a big enough why, you have a big enough how. And so, like I said before, when I wrote my eulogy, for me to fight for what's right and what's fair, to risk for which that mattered, and to leave this earth a better place for who I am and what I did, for me, that's my why. So every single day, every single way, when I go to bed at night, what did I do to make this world a better place? And I think about what I'm proud of in my accomplishments for that day. Did I make somebody smile? Did I listen to somebody? Did I coach somebody? Did I do a post? Did I do a video? Did I have a great conversation? What would you say to people to be able to develop that self-discipline for themselves and maybe find that bigger why?
So the way it was put to me, I was contemplating a career change, and I had a mentor.
When?
This was probably 7 years ago, and I was interested in making my company culture better. It was kind of toxic at the time. We didn't really have a code that we lived by. It was just kind of like the jungle in a way. And so I'm studying how corporate culture, and corporate culture is a shitty description of it, how people should treat each other at work. What are the things that we're all going to live by? And so I got really good at this. I helped, with my team, we created these 4 core values for my company: make it better, be bold, share the load, master the craft. And there are deep meanings behind each one of those. And so we all embrace that, helped a couple of clients do the same thing. Things that actually, and the beauty of it is, Chris, you and I are having a disagreement. If I don't like something that you've done, if I go to you and say, I don't like how you approach this problem, Chris, and here's why, it's a me versus you thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I can point to those principles up on the wall that say, hey, this is what we all agreed to, then it's not a me versus you. It's, hey, we're supposed to be on the same page, and you've broken the code. It's a totally different conversation. So I'm talking about my buddy John, my mentor, told him about this crazy idea that I was going to go off and be a culture consultant because I got real smart real fast. Mm-hmm. And he said, man, you're really good at this. You took to it like a duck to water. I think you do great. But let me ask you one question. Why did God put you on earth? And I thought,
damn, I like this guy.
Yeah. I mean, cut straight to it. Right. And I knew immediately that was a question that I absolutely had to answer, but I didn't have the answer for it. And he said, let me clarify this a little bit. By that question, I mean, if everybody you knew was dead, and you didn't have a job, what would you do with your life that would give you purpose? And it's not necessarily some skill that you're best at. What fills you up when you're doing it? And so I went on this quest to figure it out. It just possessed me for a couple of years. I mean, I was not able to put words to it until one day I'm laying on the couch trying to take a nap on a Saturday afternoon and couldn't go to sleep. And I sat straight up and said, to connect and grow people. And it was right there in front of me the whole time. It had always been inside of me. Like you, I love the idea of talking to somebody, understanding who they are, and helping them find what they need in the world. Mm-hmm. Whether that's, something that I can teach them, a connection, an introduction that I can make to them that will make them better. And in many cases, it's helping people grow, sharing my story about alcohol. I've got probably 10 people that I send my workout to every day now. Just show them, hey, I'm doing this. And that, it's usually before they've even rolled out of bed that I'm sending them the workout. Now I've got some of those people sending me their workouts. They've decided I'm going to start doing this. So that is something that I would do if you threw me in prison. I would want to help the people around me be better. What is it? The old phrase, flower where you're planted, grow where you're planted. It's, I would do it no matter what. And so now when I'm making a decision about any opportunity in front of me, it either fits that purpose or I don't do it, because I know if it doesn't work for me, if it doesn't do something doesn't help me fulfill my God-given purpose, it's not going to last. I'm going to regret it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I make all decisions through that lens. And I've even crafted my company. I'm very fortunate that we've had some success. I've got good people, and I've crafted my job at my own company around that purpose. And most of what I'm doing is I'm having coffee and breakfast and lunch with people on a daily basis. And my first goal is I want to understand what you do and how you do it and who you need to meet and what resources you need, and try to connect them to other people in the world to help them get what they want. Because if I do that, it will always come back to me, and I don't have to worry about keeping a roof over my head, having a place to sleep. All those things will take care of themselves. And so that's what really makes me tick.
I love that. I mean, what you're talking about, Eric, is like getting to the root of the situation. So oftentimes we deal in symptoms of situations, and we think about what I would like, or we think about, if I only had this, then I would be happy. But when you have your mission, that vision of who it is that you want to be remembered for, and what it is that you can do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, so oftentimes, speaking about music, people ask me like, how come you're not a musician? And I'm like, because that is not my forte. I am really good at certain aspects of it, but what I'm really great at and what I really love to do is, like you just said, I love to listen to people. I love to see people in situations that they don't think they can excel out of or change their disposition about. They've had so many failures. They've had it all, and to be able to say something in such a way. And I'm really good at what I do. Within an hour, I can get somebody to pretty much switch their circuitry and start to believe in themselves. And there is no greater rush to know that I can use my experiences and my challenges and all the hardships and the backstabbing and all these different things that I've had in my life to be able to share something in such a way that somebody goes, oh, I didn't think about it that way. And so when I work with my coaching clients, it's very similar to that. It's like, okay, if you were only given 7 days or 7 weeks or 7 months to continue living, what is it that you would want to do most? What would be the thing that would light you up? Like what mark on the world would you want to leave? Would it be if you wrote a book? I mean, there's so many different areas I go into. If you were going to write a book about one subject, what would that subject be? Well, I'd love to teach people how to be a better parent. I would love to teach people about how to cook better. Okay, that's your thing. That's your, if you ever read the Big Leap by Gay Hendricks?
No, I think it's in that big stack of books over there, but I've heard of it.
Okay, so you're going to love this book. You're going to love this book because in that book, it talks about we operate in our zone of greatness, our zone of excellence, or our zone of genius. Yep. And we create these upper limit problems. You're going to dig it. And so for me, like you were talking about, like I've been a business consultant for so many years, but coaching is like my thing. But when I realized because I was in corporate for 30 years, I was director of operations, almost became the chief operating officer for that particular company. The organization shifted. There was a whole bunch of stuff that went on, but I was in my zone of excellence in leadership. I have a master's degree in organizational management. That was my zone of excellence. But when I was working with my coach, she said, okay, what's your zone of genius? And I said, being able to speak to somebody and get them to shift their perspective, have them shift their beliefs about their past, present, and their future. She goes, okay, that's what I want you to focus on most. She goes, quit doing these other things. Focus on that, because when we take away those excuses, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm trying to figure it out. No, it's when you hone down, like you said, to the, like, what's that gift that you bring to the world? Like I started off the show talking about, we all have those unique, special gifts. When I talk to people, I'm like, what's your unique, special gift? Well, I've never really thought about it that much. I'm like, what can you do without even thinking about it? Well, I can write, I can do this, I can do that. Okay, focus on that. Let's go all in on that. And let's just let these other things kind of fall by the wayside. Let's give it 6 months. Let's give it 12 months and see where you can go and see what it is you can focus on. We've already been talking for 53 minutes, dude. We could talk for multiple hours. We've talked about it here and there. I'm a big believer in questions. So I believe when you ask yourself different questions, you get different answers. So I was just helping a client out today, and I said, what am I making this mean to mean about me? And that was like a big question. Like so many times we take things personal. Another great question I like to ask myself, or I have my clients ask themselves, is what am I supposed to be learning from this experience? Like, so oftentimes, why is this happening to me? What am I supposed to be learning from this experience? So many more. What are some powerful questions for that you believe the listeners can start asking themselves in order to shift their perspective about their past, present, their future? How to find more discipline, more courage, more opportunity for optimism as opposed to pessimism? What are some of those questions that you would suggest to people?
So, I don't know if this is a question or not. Let me think about it. We created some communications principles at Element 47. We're people. We're big hairless apes, right? We're going to have conflict from time to time, and when we talk to each other, sometimes we're not on the same page. And I would tell anybody, assume the best intentions of the other person. It will really, then that will evoke questions that you need to ask. Can you tell me more about that? Yep. Giving the other person, and really simple, open-ended questions in the heat of the moment, if you're trying to understand the other person, will give you a lot of perspective. And in many cases, you'll realize what you expected them to say is not what they're thinking at all.
Nope. We often assume. Right.
We're not using enough words to really get to the meat of the matter. And when somebody says something to you, they may say a couple of sentences. Well, tell me more about that.
Mm-hmm. I love that quote. That's one of my favorites.
It will open the other person up. And if you're expressing that you've got genuine concern and you really want to know what's on their mind, well, they're going to continue to talk. And in many cases, what I've found is, oh my God, that's not what I thought, was nothing close to what I expected them to say or to feel. And I learned something. And most of the people that we're talking to every day, they've got good intentions. We come to a relationship or an interaction with somebody, and we've got our own stuff that we're thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
Running late. I don't feel well. I've got too much to do. And we just want to get that interaction over with as quickly as possible. So be open.
So true. And that's how I started the show, right? I sat there and said, tell me more about that. How can I help myself understand that person's perspective? And I've helped a lot of people during this political process and this time of change. And I'm like, you know what? I've found that more people than not, we ultimately want the same things. Like, I'll ask somebody, I'm like, what are the things that you want most? I want health and security. I want safety for all these different things. And I'm like, it's just a matter of perspective of how it is we go about it. And so when we shift that belief system, when we sit there and say, instead of being reactive to what's going on, how can I be proactive? And how can I, again, that seek first to understand, then to be understood thing is shifted my life. My mother was very much not that person. And when I was 17 years old, I had to make a hard decision for myself. Like, am I going to continue in her footsteps, or am I going to have to create my own footsteps? And I had no role model. I did not know about personal growth. I did not have a father figure in my life. I never knew my dad. And so I had to make a tough decision that I didn't want to wind up in a police car. I didn't want to wind up dead, because I was dabbling in both of those. And I finally just had to make the decision to live my life. And that's when I came across a person who said, Christopher, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. And that's actually a tattoo I have on my arm right there. It says, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. And I actually put the guy's initials, William T. White, because he looked at me as a 17-year-old kid dating his daughter, and I had long hair, cigarette smoking, living in an apartment with 5 guys. And he's the guy that convinced me. He says, hey, would you ever consider going back to school and getting your GED? And I said, I have no idea what a GED is. And he said, that's a general equivalency diploma. I said, it's like a high school diploma, but it's for people who drop out. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm stupid. And I was told I was stupid all my entire life. I did poorly in school. Did not know I was highly ADHD and, all sorts of different things. Didn't know I had a vision problem. Didn't know I had a hearing problem. That's a whole nother subject. And so I went and got my GED, and I realized that, if I just start to apply myself and I start to make that commitment to myself and I start to have a bigger vision, what is it that I can produce out of my life? And as a result of that, I've created a pretty awesome life for myself. Dude, we've been talking almost for an hour. I usually try to keep the show under an hour. What are some final thoughts? We started this conversation off talking about how we can get more control in our life. I believe that we have delivered massive amounts of strategies for people to consider. What maybe are a few more things that you'd like to add in before we end out the show?
I would encourage anybody listening to discover your purpose. And it's really not that hard to figure out what it is. Again, it's, what would you do if everybody you knew was gone? What would be and you described it, I think, even better than I did. What do you really want to do with your life? You've got 7 weeks to live. What are you going to do? What are you going to concentrate on? And go concentrate on that for a while. The other thing would be try to develop a new habit. Pick something that you want to change in your life and tick away at it. Spend time every single day doing that thing, and it will become a habit that you can't run from. I usually start heading to bed at about 9 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock here in Nashville. There's no way that you're going to keep me in that bed past 4:47 a.m. I cannot lay there. It's just something that's now a part of who I am, and it helped me get into the best shape of my life. It's those two things would be make some change in your life.
Wow, Eric, thank you so much for this conversation tonight. I really, really appreciate you. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, we've delivered multiple strategies for people to really consider in their life. I know without a doubt, people are going to want to connect with you and learn more about you. Where are some places that people can get a hold of you? I have some websites to put up here, but where can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, my company, element47.co. Don't type in .com. It's a terrible website. I tried to buy that domain. But element47.co is my primary company.
And it's the number 47 for people who are listening, the 47, not 47.
Yep. And so I'm in the marketing business. Instagram, I am the Lummox, which is an interesting story. One of my first jobs out of college, I was in the printing industry. I walk in, these two guys that were already working there look across the room at me, and one of them turns to the other and says, "Who's that big burly lummox of a man?" If you don't know the word lummox, it is not a compliment. So, that's pretty much the only social media that I'm on, which is weird because I'm in marketing, but I've got people for, doing that for all of our clients.
Can you spell that out for people who are listening? They might not know.
Absolutely. IAMTHELUMMOX. I am the Lummox.
That's another thing we share. I was in charge of a print center, a full production print center for about 7 years as part of my job as director of operations. So that's funny you mentioned that. But for those of you guys listening, just go to the show notes and you guys can find the links to get in touch with Eric. Brother, this has been such a tremendous conversation with you today. I know it's just the start of many, many more conversations because we have so much in common. I'm going to talk to you off camera here in a second about a couple of them, but thank you so much. I'm going to put you backstage. Don't go anywhere so I can still talk with you for a second because I know it's past your bedtime, but this has been just a phenomenal experience with you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
You got it. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. A hour and 2 minutes. I apologize for going a little bit over, but the opportunity is here, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Eric and I could continue talking. There is so many synergies right there. So thank you, Eric, again. Please connect with him. Give him a shout out. Let him know you heard our conversation here on the Raw Unscripted show. So my question to you is this, and oftentimes I preface the show with, this is kind of class. Right. Oftentimes people can't afford to work with me one-on-one. So here's the class. We've been doing this for now 304 episodes now. I think it is. Doesn't matter. So we have 304 episodes. So we have a ton of content. You take 3 strategies from this conversation tonight, 3. And I'm a big fan. I keep things simple, super simple. Sticky notes. I love sticky notes. I have tons of them. I have 4 of them on my computer monitor. You take 3 strategies, you put them on a sticky note, you stick them on your computer to monitor, or you also stick them on your dashboard of your car, because chances are you're in front of a computer or you're in your car. You put 3 strategies in there, and for the next 7 days, focus on them. So perhaps it is, instead of saying, I'm going to try to get up at 4:47 tomorrow, you just make a commitment. Like I made a commitment to do 75 hard. I'm nobody special. I just sat there and said, Chris, it bugs you enough that you don't want to do it. You need to do it. And I tell you, I've done it 4 times now. Actually, I'm leading a 30-day challenge right now for a buddy of mine who owns a networking app. And so we're doing a 30-day challenge. Just decide for yourself. Decide for yourself. You're no longer going to tolerate your excuses, your bullshit, your negative self-talk. Whatever is in the past is in the past. There is a reason why you were listening to this conversation tonight or watching this conversation. There is a reason, right? If you're unhappy with your results in your life, personally, professionally, spiritually, whatever it might be, right now is the moment you can say, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to allow myself to down talk myself. I'm not going to allow myself the excuses. I don't feel like it. I was at the gym today. I did not feel like it. I could have drove right past it. I have all sorts of reasons that I'm in already great shape and but I drove in there and I said, even if I just do 20 minutes, which I usually do about 45 minutes to an hour and 15, depends on what workout I'm doing. Even if I just do 20 minutes, Chris, you kept your promise to yourself. I worked out for 43 minutes today. I did 20 minutes on the bike and I did 23 minutes of circuit training. I keep my promises to myself. And yes, it is challenging. And some days you don't feel like it, but do you feel like the results? And that's what you have to really think about. Yeah, I may not feel like having that tough conversation with my spouse. I may not want to have that tough conversation with my staff member. I may not want to do whatever it is that you want to insert right there. But on the other side of it, do you want the results? Because so oftentimes we're hoping, wishing, and praying that someday, there's no someday on a calendar, by the way, that someday we're going to change. Or someday the situation's going to change. Oh, I hope it improves. You know how fucking tired I get of people saying, I hope it improves. Oh, I've been praying on it, Chris. I'm like, yeah, that's good to pray. All belief in that. But what action are you taking? Because if you're living in the hope of someday, then you're going to have what I call regret. Regret. One of the big things in my life that fuels me is not having any regrets when I pass away. I say the things I want to say. I tell all my brothers and my sisters, I love you. I was just talking with a buddy of mine I haven't talked to in a while. I said, I love you, man. I just want you to know I truly love you. Right? We got to say the things that we need to say. We need to say those things to ourselves. And tonight we've had that conversation. We've talked about beating our addictions. I quit drinking for a year. I am past master. I mean, I know Jack Daniel's stock dove. I haven't had Jack Daniel's in forever. Now I've just been having some beers here and there. Totally fine. No big deal. I'm good with it. You know, I used to be a party animal. I quit smoking multiple years ago. I quit using medical cannabis 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, there's all sorts of things I've quit and I've started. And I think what Eric said, start a new habit. So when you're thinking about the strategies that you're going to write down in your sticky notes, what's a new habit I'm going to develop tomorrow? I like what he talked about, journaling. If you sometimes I refer to people to 20 minutes of journaling, 20 minutes of workout, and 20 minutes of meditation, whatever it might be. Split that first hour of the day, own that first hour of the day, whatever it is you possibly can do, get some sunshine, but spend some time journaling and be honest with yourself. Chris, I don't know what to write. Just write one word if that's all that you can write. But chances are, if you sit there and say, you know what is something that I've been holding on to that I need to let go of? There's a question. Think about that. And then you start writing it down and sit there and say, ask yourself, how am I a part of the solution or am I a part of the problem? Again, those questions that you ask yourself, if you want questions to ask yourself, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to give those to you. I have a whole list of questions. I actually interviewed a guy on the show who wrote books about asking questions, and I had to come up with some new questions that he had never been asked before, and I got him on the show. You guys may have seen that episode or heard that episode. I nailed him. I had to think about, what question can I ask this guy who's written many, many books on questions? You ask yourself a different question. You're honest with yourself, which is something that Eric and I talked about tonight, that honesty. Does it hurt? Does it suck? Yeah, it hurts to be honest with yourself. I talk about the AAA, awareness, acceptance, and action. Sometimes I have to think about it. Awareness, the situation, it is what it is. Acceptance, right? You know, whether it's my fault or not, it doesn't matter. It's in the situation that you're in. And then that action. But again, so many times we sit there and we just wait and we hope and we think about it. Maybe tomorrow, if I only had this. Just do one action and then continue that action, that new habit. And I promise you, it's not going to be overnight, But over a period of times, you keep that habit for 7 days. Then you keep that habit for another 7 days. And then you realize you've had that habit for 3 months. Then all of a sudden 6 months goes by. And then all of a sudden you're at a year and you think, wow, I'm not even the same person I was before. And that should be your goal every single day when you wake up, is how can I be just a little bit better today? How can I make a little bit better food choice today? How can I make a little bit better communication choice? Again, we've been talking about listening. You can do this. You piecemeal it together and you start to become that person. And then you're no longer that person you were. And then you get excited. I have books and books and books and all sorts of books. I continue to feed myself every single day because I am a work in process, just like Eric said. So what is it going to be for you? One more thing, I got to go. I did a horrible job tonight of gathering your guys' comments. I apologize. I was so much into the conversation. We had Princeton Clark in the house. Princeton said a couple of things. Let me see. Christopher Rauschenberg. I think that must have been a typo, but Christopher Rausch, one of the most authentic people I've had the pleasure of connecting with. Yes, Princeton and I go way, way back. Thank you, brother, for being here. I appreciate that. They were talking about him and Robert were talking. We got Robert in the house from Toronto, Canada. He says, leaving a state of victimhood has been challenging, but very worth it. You have been a definite work in process, Robert. I appreciate you so much. Princeton said it's a good thing we didn't have cell phones when we were younger. Dude, I have some pictures that I would like to not have in existence. But yeah, cell phone video. No. Let's see. We got Nicole Young in the house. She says, hey fellas, what's up, Nicole? Thank you for being here. Princeton also said, thank you for using your victory to guide others. Nothing better. He was mentioning that for you, Eric. People are saying hi. Do we know each other because they're cool. We have great listeners here. Tonic water is tasty. Absolutely. Jacqueline Rose in the house, my Irish sister from another mister. She says, I only drink spring water. Boom. Jacqueline Rose also says here, back arthritis. I have a back brace. I have to wear it a lot to help my back not hurt bad. My hips have arthritis, problems with my knees, but I will walk every day as much as I can because you're unstoppable, because you made that choice about yourself. So thank you guys again. If you got value out of this, please share this. My intention, my goal is to continue helping millions and millions of people all around the world. And we got a long way to go. So with your social media currency, you guys can share this out and say, hey, I heard these guys talking tonight. And here's something I took from that conversation. Share it out with your community. Share it out with a friend. Send a private message to somebody and say, hey, I think that you really could benefit from this conversation tonight. And then together, you and I can make this world a better place. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we all have a responsibility to leave the earth a better place for who we are and what we do. You have a special gift and a talent. Let's share that out. Let's make this world a better place. I will be back here again next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as I always am. I think, if I'm not mistaken, pardon me for just a moment while I find this. Where did it go? Where are my windows? Next week, who do we have? I think it is me. Hang on. Please hold, ladies and gentlemen. I have a master note that I keep all my show notes on. Next week is a solo show. Oh shit. Next week is February 25th. Don't tell anybody, but my birthday is February 26th. So I'm doing a solo show next week. It's just going to be you and I, probably talking something about what I've learned in my 56. It'll be 56 years on the planet next Wednesday. So we're going to be talking about that. So please tune in for that, because it's sure to be an authentic show, as it always is. I'll come up with some tidbits for you guys to continue to grow in your journey. After that, the next week, we got Julie Brenning. What an amazing individual. We had a call. Jesus Christ, I had a call with her in August. Wow, that was a long time ago. We've been trying to get this show scheduled for quite some time. After that, I got another solo show. We've got a couple of great guests coming up after that. So please continue to tune in. I love you guys. I appreciate you so much. I'm going to shut up now because I literally been talking since 6 o'clock this morning. If you can't hear it in my voice, you're crazy. So I love you guys. Go out there and be the change that you bitch about. And we will see you. We will see you next time. Jacqueline says, when is Poncho and Lefty riding again? I think you're referring to me and Scott. Scott and I haven't done our show in quite some other time. So for those of you guys who don't know, I used to do a show also called The Unfiltered Experience. So I think that's what you're referring to, or you may be referring to Eric, who now could be lefty, which I'm actually left-handed. So let us know in the comments, Jacqueline, who you're referring to, and we'll make it happen. We'll definitely have Eric back on the show again. Love you guys. Peace out. Raw and Unscripted.